of all of the comparison pairs, the two Grenaches are the most similar. Now, they both have exuberant fruit. They're both very accessible. They're both very tasty. We've got the private property, which is from the cooler climate of Santa Lucia Highlands in the Monterey Bay of California. And then we have the McLaren Vale example. This is a really classic wine from Australia, Wirra Farmer's Heart Grenache from McLaren Vale. Delicious wines both, but slightly different. So the private property, we'll start there with the Santa Lucia Highlands wine. So this is from Scott Caraccioli. He's fourth generation of a family of wine growers. They were growing grapes in Monterey County for decades. And then his father, who really loved the idea of wine and making wine, started making wine in 2006. They wanted to do this instead of just selling fruit, but they wanted to make something that wasn't produced in the area. So they made unusual grapes, not just Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which are the standard production grapes for Santa Lucia Highlands. Santa Lucia Highlands is actually this very long, narrow American viticultural area. It runs down the western side of the Salinas Valley. The Salinas Valley is actually where a lot of the food for the US is grown, especially lettuce and strawberries and things like that. So there are parts of it that are extremely fertile, but in the highlands, this is up at elevation, you have a lot of oceanic influences. So Monterey Bay actually has a very large underwater depression or canyon. And out of that comes this, what they call the thermal rainbow. It can be very cold. You're getting cold ocean air coming off of that deep water. And so as a result, Santa Lucia Highlands, which is very affected by that cold air, is going to have one of the longest growing seasons in California. Sometimes they are 6 weeks later than the rest of the state in terms of harvest. So that means really good flavor development, a very long hang time. It's a bit cooler. So this Grenache is going to show characteristics of a cooler climate Grenache. Let's take a look at it. Basically, the color is going to be pretty light. Grenache doesn't hold color very well, so you're not going to see a very dark color, but there is sunshine here. We are still in California. We'll give it a swirl around the glass and take a sniff. I mean, clearly, red fruit is the star. It's almost like brandied red fruit a little bit. You get some pepper, you get some of, just really herbs and red flowers, things like that. Taste it. This wine for Grenache is low alcohol. It's only 13.3% alcohol. And so you don't get that full-bodied note. I mean, in a way, it's like a Grenache that's made like a California Pinot Noir. Now you still have that rich red fruit and you still have some of that herbal floral aromatics, which you will sometimes get in Pinot Noir, but this is really a Grenache. It's very upfront and bright, but there's good acidity here, which is something you don't usually see in Grenache. So really a very interesting example. I think you'll love this wine. It's very pleasing like every Grenache is, but just a little bit more restrained. So very cool in the sense that you get a totally different style. And this is gonna contrast completely with the Wirra Farmer's Heart from McLaren Vale. This is actually a great story. The winery was built in 1894 by a former cricketer. He went to McLaren Vale because he had embarrassed his family way too many times, and this was a remote area, set up a winery. It did really well. So this was in the 1890s, early 1900s. Then it languished for a really long time. And in 1969, it was revived by Greg Trott. He liked hard projects. This was pretty difficult. So the thing is, though, McLaren Vale is one of the oldest growing areas in Australia. It is known for old vine Grenache. And this is no different. 80 to 120-year-old vines on this Farmer's Heart Grenache. And in the Mediterranean climate, because you have the Gulf St. Vincent there, you have cool sea breezes that are coming in to moderate the temperatures and things like that. These are sandy soils, perfect for Grenache. actually very similar to some of the soils of Châteauneuf-du-Pape. The older vines are going to create smaller berries, more intense fruit flavor, higher in alcohol. This is 14.8%. You certainly are going to feel the difference in body. Let's take a look. You definitely can see a difference in the color. This is a lot darker in color, although again, Grenache is not a super dark grape, but you certainly see more purple hues from all of the sun in McLaren Vale. Swirl it around the glass and take a sniff. Wow. I mean, this is full, rich black fruit, red fruit. You get some candied fruit, some brandied fruit. You can smell a little bit of the alcohol. You feel it burning your nose, the cilia singer, as I like to say. You know this is going to be a full, rich Grenache. Okay, let's taste. Yep. So typical and so good. So it gives you this warming feeling, big body, black pepper, black fruit. You get a little bit of tobacco, just such a beautiful big wine. And I love it. It's a woman winemaker, actually Emma Woods, who used to work at Penfolds, now makes this wine. Such a classic McLaren Vale Grenache and such a great comparison with the cooler climate of the private property. Again, as you taste these wines, of all of the pairs, these will be the most similar, but you can definitely see the influence of climate on these two very sunny places, but completely different climates. So one is cool from that high, from the elevation and from those cool breezes from Monterey Bay in the private property. And then in the Wirra Farmer's Heart, you have something that is rich and just abundant with fruit and bursting with fruit. So juicy and delicious. I know you're going to love these wines. They are delicious. Who doesn't love a Grenache?